guys, welcome to episode. Whoa! We're lost in the time continuum. This is a special mystery episode. Where are we?
Yeah, we could be anywhere. It is funny that we are recording. We did record this first in a different year, so I mean that's kind of an interesting thing to take away.
Oh, that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, like this is a 2-year long episode. Okay, so little background here. This is starting off to a rocky start, but somebody, Mr. Combo, had a little technical difficulty, which we were plagued with throughout the entirety of December. So we actually recorded this episode first in 2020, and now are re-recording it and had to shake some things around. However, we
absolutely right. I didn't hit a button on my recorder, so my microphone didn't get power, and I totally thought it had. Yes. So this is actually episode 74 of Brews and Builds, right, but we're recording it in like the odd time continuum.
Right, in the worst continuum. And also our fearless audio producer, Squee McGee, is not going to be joining us today because he had to work. And instead, me and
because he died.
Yeah, he's a dead man. All those bets in Scandinavia finally caught up with him. But now me and Mr.
But the one thing we are hoping for, though, BigTuck, is since Squee will still edit this episode afterwards, we're really hoping that he's just going to randomly pause our audio and do his own color Manolith commentary.
Yes. R.I.P. Squee. We'll see you next year. But I was also going to say, this is the first time that I can remember we've recorded in the cold, clear light of day instead of the darkness where we can hide our emotions and sorrow. So it's definitely has a little bit of a different feeling. Since it's only noon o'clock, I am drinking a bubbly instead of a brewski because I drank about 17 of those over the last 2 days. So, but it's okay. So Mr. Combo, how has your 2021 been so far?
Well, I didn't actually go to sleep until 2021 on New Year's Eve. Went to bed at like 5 a.m. Yep. Also went ahead and didn't wake up till 1 o'clock on New Year's Day.
1 o'clock? You degenerate. And you're going to give me a bunch of crap about sleeping late.
Wow.
New Year's Day was the last day that I'm allowed to eat disgusting, gross food because I am going hardcore on the chicken and salad or chicken and broccoli diet. Hit an all-time high on the weight scale, so gotta cut back. But I allowed myself one day to purge. Ate a stuffed crust meat lovers
from where?
Pizza from Pizza Hut.
By yourself? The whole thing?
100%. Yep, whole thing. That was the only food I ate all day yesterday.
Wow.
So I feel great. Dropped the kids off at the pool for about a half hour.
I was wondering about that. So listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Do I feel great? No. Is my mental health great? Also no. I feel like I'm losing it.
But other than that, I'm good. I'm now into season 4 of Vikings. Yes. I'm absolutely loving it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I wish I would have learned about it sooner, but glass half full, I'm glad I didn't, because now I could just binge watch it opposed to being drawn out week by week.
You know, and I think that's kind of something that, well, first off, I think I was thinking about this the other day when I was like, well, I am also binge watching The Expanse. It's fine. It's just for something to have on the background. I was playing my Switch during like half of it, so whatever. But it's just so weird of like, I can't remember, like, so The Expanse originally aired on Sci-Fi, right? And there's times where it fades to black and then comes back up, right? And you're like, oh yeah, TV writers used to have to write in for commercials, right?
Yes, I know.
And like you couldn't just like sit on your couch and just shotgun these things back to back to back and not do anything. And I finally got the dreaded, I try not to be like a big binge watcher, I'm more of a movie guy. And I finally got the dreaded, like, I was like doing something on my Switch or on my phone or something, and I was like, why isn't the next episode coming up? And I looked up and the TV said like, hey, it's Amazon. Are you still watching? There? I was like, all right, I need to go do something else. Like, I gotta get out of this chair and go somewhere.
That is one of the things I've enjoyed about Hulu. I don't know if Hulu does that because I've seriously watched like 6 hours worth of stuff in a row and it hasn't popped up that dreaded message.
It doesn't give you the shame.
But whenever I pass out on the couch and I wake up, my Xbox is off and it has stopped playing. So at some point it does do it. I just assume that they have hacked in via NSA to my phone, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Combo's asleep. Let's go ahead and turn it off."
Yeah.
We'll save the episodes for him.
He can figure this out tomorrow. But good. No, it's good. Well, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you want to know more ways to support the CMD Tower team and all the content that we put out, head over to our sponsor, level1gameshop.com. They sell everything you need from a tabletop gaming perspective, whether it be board games or card games. Plus, they're the ones that hook you guys up with those monthly giveaways, so you should definitely go check them out. If you want to actually put some dollars in the pockets, help keep lights on, upgrade BigTuck's audio setup for when he actually goes... remote real life RRL.
Yes, where I'm far away.
You should head over to our patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different pledge levels, and rewards vary from just getting access into the Discord or getting your own set of CMD Tower Playmaster sleeves or even getting the infamous Squee McGee coin.
Yes.
If you can't help out from a monthly perspective, you could actually just go to the store, cmdtower.com/merch. We have everything for sale on there. Please go buy it. I actually had to clean my play area where I store all this merch for New Year's Eve, and it was a pain in the arse. Buy it all.
All right.
But if you guys can't help us out from a financial standpoint, just share the content you're watching or listening to, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. And of course, we want to give a big shout out to T-Coats. He is our video editor that does these amazing YouTube videos that you guys are watching right now. The graphics are fantastic.
Yeah.
Actually, I had to steal his graphic for my green screen for when I do RRL podcasting. There we go.
RRL?
And Pink Royal. Yeah, remote real life.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I am not a robot.
Okay. Like it. You got the captcha.
And, oh God, speaking of captcha, did you see that Boston Dynamics robot?
Yeah, it's terrifying.
God, that was funny.
Yeah, I don't like any of that. It gives me anxiety.
Bring on the T-1000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen Terminator once.
It's incredible.
Was going out on a limb.
Missing out.
Thank you, Pink Royal, for the music you guys have in the beginning and the end of the episodes. And hey, stay tuned till the end so you guys can get details on how you can win that Kaldheim bundle from Level 1.
Oh, right.
So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Since we conquered the path to 32, we have moved on to the endless themes that EDH can bring us. Each month will be a new theme, and we correlate how those decks are constructed similar to how a beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. First one's rampant setting your board state. That's grain.
Yes, and grains are the foundation of every beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually in a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of a beer. Decks always need ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp your bigger threats, and just like a grand profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
Then we have how does your board interact with all of your opponents, whether that's spells on the stack, hands, permanents on the battlefield. We call that hops.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and help distinguish subcategories like IPAs. Our hop chalices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can do what it ultimately wants.
And then the next thing we have is how does your deck actually close out or win games? We call that yeast.
And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds alcohol content in the carbonation. Without yeast, you would be drinking flat sugar water. Without yeast cards, your deck wouldn't meet the goal of actually winning the game.
Then we have shenanigans. That is something that doesn't really live in this format, but hey, we're here. These can be pet cards, random synergies that are in the deck that are fun. We call that spice.
I completely forgot about this bit. So spices do not appear in every beer, and they actually don't appear in this deck at all. So there you have it.
And then to seal off the episode, we have a bottle capping. It's going to be BigTuck and I's cuts and adds to the deck that are under $5, under $50, and a no budget recommendation. Just can't talk about mana only lands. So without further ado, let's get brewing. We're continuing our CEDH month with your favorite combo player on the cast, Mr. Combo number 5s. Okay, going out on a stretch, but granted, the goad kind of gave me the leeway to just call the deck what I want to call it, but I always try to put the commanders' names in there. Thrasios Smashes extra turns.
I don't like it.
No?
I like the one. It's just. I think it's the first. The original is succinct. It gets to the point, right? This other one is like some nebulous ideal that doesn't exist.
Fine. We're talking about turns and burns.
Yes.
This is my 4-color Thrasios Tritan Hero and Vial Smasher of the Fierce deck. So, BigTuck, why don't you read what Thrasios does, and I'll take Vial Smasher and give a little history about the deck.
Cool. So, Thrasios Tritan Hero is a rare, shockingly, that it costs Simic, that's green and blue. It's a 1/3 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. Beneath crashing waves lies an oceans of secrets waiting to be explored. And it has 4 colorless, scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, otherwise draw a card.
And what's funny is I thought you were going to make I am wearing my glasses and I still can't read. And then I was going to segue into my fiance's actually at the eye doctor right now trying to get glasses.
Yeah, join us. I talked about my astigmatism, right?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then. So, good for her. I'm thinking about actually going to get LASIK this year, but we'll see what happens.
Vial Smasher the Fierce is a colorless Rakdos that's black and red. Legendary creature, Goblin Berserker.
Whoa.
It's a 2/3, and it also has partner. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, Vial Smasher the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's CMC to an opponent chosen at random. So, how this deck kind of came into fruition was a 2-parter. One, I was on my path to 32. I needed to fill this everything but white color scheme, and I believe this is Maelstrom.
This is Yidris colors, which I think is hold on. I think is this
Dunmar or something?
Yeah, it's something crazy like that. Hold on. Let's see. Over here. This is Glint Eye.
Glint Eye. The infamous Glint Eye.
Yes.
So, I used to have a Maelstrom Wielder deck, and I actually enjoyed it. It was kind of chaos. I don't know what I'm going to get, but it really kind of functioned off of eventually getting Paradox Engine, so then that way I could untap my artifacts, keep casting spells, go through my entire deck, and win off of combat.
Yeah, it was a chaos deck that was secretly a Paradox Engine infinite combo Cascade deck. So
hey, sometimes I cascaded into crap, and then once I ran out of spells, I couldn't cascade anymore.
True.
So that was the goal of the deck, but then our amazing rules committee decided to ban Paradox Engine. Woo! So I dismantled the deck, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do for these colors? Well, there's the partners, and I guess I should say this. I did play the Maelstrom Wielder deck once or twice after the ban, and it just never functioned the same.
You took the Paradox Engine out, right?
Yeah. Once Paradox Engine went out, the deck just sucked. It was not fun to play. So decided, okay, what are the partner pairings? Partners honestly don't really interest me. And I had started going to Magic Fest, and I was like, okay, there's always someone there playing CEDH. I wouldn't mind, I have a lot of expensive cards. I could probably put together a CEDH deck with just stuff I have. And so that's how I kind of, came to the partners and kind of going down this route is, okay, I know Thrasios is a very high-powered partner, but usually everyone partners it with Timna the Weaver, which is the Orzhov. At post-combat, however many opponents took damage, you could pay that much life and draw that many cards. It's just basically you have value in your command zone, and then you have all your combo pieces in the deck.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go infinite, because that's how you win in CEDH.
Sure.
But I did not want to do the normal rigmarole, infinite, draw my deck, Labman, Thassa's Oracle, Jace. I don't want to do that. I wanted to do my own rigmarole of going infinite that can be interrupted and can cause me to lose the game, is going infinite with infinite turns, because I just burn everyone out with Vial Smasher. We'll get to it in the East section. There's a couple cards that you can kind of rinse and recycle throughout the deck. But I thought that would at least be a fresh take on it. And it's been a deck restriction I've held myself to. No way I will add one of the 3. If you have no cards left in your library, you win the game. Well, just on principle of, let me try to be a little bit different.
Well, and the first time I saw this, I actually put one in because I didn't know that there was that restriction. So luckily, we don't have to go through that whole panic during the episode like last time we recorded. So, so I I don't play CEDH, so to me, all these decks kind of blend into one another, especially now that we've done another one already. So I don't know. I think I have played against this deck one time, and I think you did get to take infinite turns, but you killed yourself with Mana Crypt, if I remember correctly.
Yep, sure.
And that has happened more than once to you in this one, right?
Yep, nice. Absolutely, sure does. Yes. I think I've actually killed myself more with this deck than other people have killed me playing this deck.
Nice. It is at the 94% on the competitive meter, even though I don't think that really works too well. I do want to say this. You have, I would wager to guess, literally thousands of dollars in your mana base, and your curve is kind of all over the place. Looks like you need a little bit more blue.
Yeah, I could use some more blue, but I guess like the way that CEDH works, and it's very different from just your casual kitchen table. It's only run 28 lands in the deck.
Sure.
And out of those 28 lands,
I don't think you have a single. You don't have a single. I don't think you have a single basic land, right?
Correct. I do not. Okay. And I have even off-color fetches in here. So I can always get to whatever I need to because I have all the duels. I have everything that taps for any color. So I've actually, now granted, I say that there was one game that I literally had the exact amount of blue after drawing my entire deck with infinite mana to get my infinite loop.
Right.
And if I didn't have the mana then, I just would have... I would have died because they would have, they all would have had a turn to kill me.
Right.
And I had just enough. So I guess blue has kind of bitten me before where I don't have enough.
Okay.
I don't think in a 4-color deck that I can run basics over things like Reflecting Pool or Llanowar Waste and things like that. I think I just have to find more ways to generate blue. I don't know if there are any. I think I got them all.
Yeah, probably. And I think you'd kind of have to. I think you might be short on a couple. Like, I don't see a City of Brass in here, so there's probably some like fringe. There's probably some fringe ones that'll give you multiple colors. But yeah, that is a really weird. That's a really weird predicament to be in, right? Where it's like, I can't cut, because a lot of times we talk about how we're like, okay, we have 9 land slots left. We're just going to put in 3 mountains, 3 islands, 3 green, 3 forests, right? So now that's the easiest one to reconfigure and tool around with. But now you're like, well, I have every single land that's non-basic that can come into play untapped. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I really kind of am stuck. I mean, I don't have a Steam Vents in here, so I guess I could get Shocklands.
Oh yeah. Round out those because I think
I have Blood Crypt and I have Watery Grave. I'm just missing Steam Vent, so I guess that'd be one that I could add. But once again, one land will not change my destiny.
Not the way you need it. And also, just for those playing the home game, this deck is worth somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000, depending on what cards you have and whatnot. So, good thing you like playing it, I guess.
Yep, no, for sure. And of course, the curve, I want to say the Goads was at like a 2-2, 2-3 last week.
Yeah, at most. I think it was like a 2-2-1, right?
And so you can kind of see the difference in that deck to this deck, because this deck's average CMC is 281.
Right.
So it's actually significantly higher than his. But it's because those extra turn spells alone are costing me, 21, 30, 38, at least 38 pips at a minimum, up to maybe 50 pips out of the entire deck. So that's really a big reason why I think this deck, it seems like, whoa, CMC's high. But I guess if you take out those 50, 60 pips from the deck, I bet you it drops to like a 2.
Yeah, right, exactly. And again, I think you have some ways to kind of lower that down in here somewhere. So yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure, but again, like we were talking about, that higher CMC only matters if the game is going longer, right? Whereas this thing can come out so fast, and like everything else in CEDH, like if you have if people run out of counter spells or removal, and you come out with like the perfect hand, it doesn't matter what your CMC is, right? Because you're going to find the pieces that you need to put the puzzle together, or if you will, the Rube Goldberg machine.
Now that makes sense. All right, let's get into this deck.
Yeah.
We're going to start with that ramp and grain section. BigTuck, made fair points that a lot of these decks are kind of similar, but I think the nice thing here is we're talking about a deck that does not have white and also runs green, unlike the Kaikar deck, so we will see some differences. Right. And this first one is one that you have a flower.
Oh.
And maybe it's also a carpet.
Something that you can throw on your front
burnt
door.
Couch.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Carpet flowers. Carpet flowers.
That's a single green enchantment.
It's an enchantment.
I already beat you.
No way. That was a lag. All right.
Yes.
We'll flip for it. Call it. Ready?
All right. Sitting tight.
I don't have that coin. It's in my bag. So heads or tails?
Here we go.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Heads. Yep. All right. I'm sitting tight.
Fair enough.
Ha-ha! Sucker.
Damn it. All right. During your main phase, you may add up to X mana of one color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target opponents controls, and it's sitting at about $18.
So the funny thing about this card, the goat is actually the one that kind of turned me on to this, because I've seen it on Playing with Power and Spike Feeders, and I know it's a CEDH staple, but it's that mind difference to where I would never run this in a single one of my kitchen table decks. Never in a million years. Okay. Because maybe you're getting 2 mana. Like, cool, I guess. In a normal kitchen table scenario, but in CEDH, I would say 90% of the meta does run islands.
Yeah,
so
right.
You are going to generate 3, 4, 5 mana, and I believe this has been errated to where you get it in both your main phases.
Yes, correct. You do get it in both your main phases. So yeah, and I think to your point, when we're talking about like the mana base, it does specify islands, right? So you can't, because a lot of people are also playing these Blazing Flask land bases also in blue, the fact that you're going to see a lot of Aber duels, a lot of shock lands, pretty much everything that has those sort of distinctions, then I think that your chance of getting more are even higher. I agree pretty much with everything you said. My only counter, I have seen this played in normal kitchen table and I see it do work. But those have been in like enchantment based decks in green. So then I think not only does it play into like the mana ramp, but it also plays into the theme of the deck. Gives you one more enchantment on the board to pump up your creatures and that sort of thing. And it's been, since it got reprinted in Mystery Boosters, it's now like an all-time low of like $13. So if you're on the hunt for this card, this is the time to pick it up.
And you know what a funny non-bo would be with this? I would actually say run this in a deck that you have Stormtide Leviathan, because then you make everyone's lands into islands. All the mana!
Yeah, all of it. It's the only way to make Stormtide pay for itself.
All right, BigTuck, what's your second card?
Okay, so this one, I am really trying to find cards that, and we talked about this last week, I think, where I'm trying to find cards that I'm surprised to be in these sort of decks, because I think they're I think they're pretty casual, a little more out of the beaten path. So I'm surprised that you still have Keen Sense in here. So I think it's a great card, and I think it's still worth it. So Keen Sense is 1 green for an enchantment aura. It's an enchanted creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Krovac sensed that Miri wasn't ready for the curse taking hold of her. Weeping in his heart, he fled. And I could go into why that's interesting, because it's from Plane Shift, but I don't want to tell myself to have to suck it. So normally, I think this card is really good in a normal Vial Smasher deck, just because the way that it normally runs is that you are playing a lot of stuff at instant speed, so you're constantly getting that trigger off the first thing, and then it's kind of replacing itself, right? All that stuff, and it's only 1, right? The normal version of it. You have the foil version, which is $17.
I traded it with the St. Joe group. They traded me that, and then there's like a blue version that does a similar thing.
Yeah,
and I think that one has flash. And I've already cut Curiosity, and I have to say this is on the chopping block for this deck as well. I think the biggest thing for me is I get the value you can get with Vial Smasher, and that you should be interacting with people on their turns, and so he should, in theory, be always dealing damage. But I mean, I've played this deck enough. Vial Smasher gets picked off.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is an aura. If this was an equipment, I think I'd feel a little bit different. Or if it was like Raincore, if it went to the graveyard, it goes back to hand. If it had some way to protect itself, I would be okay with it. But I'm always a little leery of auras in non-aura decks because once you put it on the creature and that creature's dead or gets exiled or bounced, that aura's gone. And not many people have aura recursion in non-aura decks.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I think, if this deck wasn't as optimized as it is, it might still have a home for it. But I just think it was cool that I think it's cool that you at least like attempted to put it in and leave it there, right?
Yeah. I've tried to play it, and I mean, kind of looking at I'll just cut it for that. There we go. I already now know exactly what I'm going to cut for it.
Easy enough. Well, we're not cutting it. We're not cutting it on this very podcast right here, right?
Oh, no, I'm absolutely cutting Keen Sense on this very podcast.
Oh, you are? Okay,
today.
gotcha. All right, let's move right along then.
All right, the next card I want to talk about is a amazing card from Commander Legends that I believe Rachel Weeks isn't the biggest fan of, but she hates his brother way more. We are talking about Hull Breacher.
Sure.
Haven't got to play with it yet, but gosh, this has to be in every CEDH deck, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's insanely good.
2 colorless blue, creature Merfolk Pirate. It's a rare. It's a 3/2. I don't need a map to find riches.
Nice.
And it has flash. And if an opponent would draw a card, except for the first they would draw on each of their up draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. And treasures are just tap, sack, add a color of any mana you want. So the thing that you will notice about CEDH is people try to draw 3, 4, 5, 6 cards a turn.
Oh, sure.
And that's why cards like Narset really hurt people in CEDH because it prohibits you from drawing more than 1 card a turn. And that's why people freak out about it. And that's also the same reason why people freak out about what's the Flash Dimir guy that if you're going to tutor you only look at the top
4? The Aven Mind Sensor, that one?
No.
Or this is
Aven Mind Sensor you have to pay. Yeah, this is a Dimir guy, Notion Thief. There we go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that's why also people like freak out when that gets flashed in, and it usually draws immediate counters.
Right.
And so Hull Breacher, I want to try to ramp really quick early, obviously have it in hand, but then be able to cast it when people are pretty much tapped out. Go ahead and flash it in. Now, granted, I could definitely see this being like a Flusterstorm target.
Oh, yeah,
or something
for sure.
to that effect. But I love the card. I think it's great. I think it actually has a home in both CEDH and EDH because really this just says, hey, let's play fair.
Right, yeah.
Draw a card, don't get some absurd value train going. And really, what are you getting? You're getting treasures. It's not like the one in black in the hop section where that one is devastating for what you get out of it. This one, it's kind of like Smothering Tithe. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And then the other thing I'll say too is it seems like there are a lot of this card, especially I think this card's really good in general, but especially in CEDH, we're now 2 decks in, and both decks have had Wheel of Fortune, right? And both decks want to cast them. So it seems to me like this is like the perfect answer to being like, all right, well, if everyone's gonna play Wheel of Fortune, everyone else can play Hull Breacher, and then it just gets insane and stacks up a gazillion treasures. So. I like it. I think it's a good card to have and hold on to, and definitely it has to be. I feel like it's kind of getting to the point where it has to be in all these CEDH decks, right?
Yeah,
just to keep
and
up.
It's kind of funny. The last thing I'll say on it is I was listening to our buddies, the Commander Smiths, and they actually had Hull Breacher as one of their specs. Even though the price is high right now, they think that it's going to go up significantly once Commander Legends is done with its print run because it is so powerful. Think of it as like a Dockside Extortionist. Dockside was expensive in the beginning. Now it's really expensive.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to me, man.
All right, Tuck, what's your last grain?
So you made an interesting choice here, and I think you only have a couple of Planeswalkers in here, but you chose the worst of the 2 drop planeswalkers.
Oh no, it's the best one.
No, this is significantly worse. So this is. Oh wait. Oh yeah. Do we both have this?
Yeah, we do.
I forgot we're kind of cheating on this. So. All right, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Red and 6.
Red and 6.
It's a 2-drop planeswalker for Gruul, which is red and green. It comes in with 3 loyalty. It's a legendary planeswalker Ren, and it's from your favorite Modern Horizons.
And it's
also mythic.
And it's also still $61.
Yeah, that's wild. But I know it's still played in a lot of legacy stuff too.
So it has 3 activated abilities. The first one's +1, return up to 1 target land from your graveyard to your hand, which I'll be honest, that's the main reason I run it here, because I have all the fetches. Great way to recycle. Crucible of the World sees play and CEDH, so I like it. -1, red and 6, deals 1 damage to any target. I don't know if I'll ever use that. The -7 I haven't gotten to yet, but that would win me the game in theory. Get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace, which basically means I can discard a land card, pay the mana cost, cast the card, and it doesn't even get exiled. It just goes back to the graveyard. So I love this guy. It's low curve. I could play it turn 2 and get my fetch land back. I could do so much with Ren and 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't even discount the -1 because there is a lot of people who play like Birds of Paradise, Land Worlds, that sort of stuff, right? That you can just slowly pick off. Or if there's other utility things like I think Deranged Hermit. Is that played at all? That's the one where
I don't know if
you cycle through. Or wait, is it Deranged Hermit? Hold on. Hermit Druid, which is like a dredge staple.
Hermit Druid, yes. No, Hermit Druid is played. I don't know if Deranged Hermit is
not yet,
played.
but now with this new spec on it, whatever. But like there are a fair amount of utility. There are a fair amount of utility creatures that have 1 toughness. That you can always just pick off with this if you haven't gotten your fetch lands in some bizarro nightmare situation. So I think all your points I completely agree with. Low CMC. 3 valuable abilities, and if you get the -7, it's probably game over.
And it's really expensive, so that fits the CEDH mantra.
Yeah, exactly. So you can even get a fancy version of it if you want to pay. How much is the foil on it? Like hundreds?
Oh, I can't imagine.
It's got to be like $150, right?
140.
Wow. Yeah. That's wild, man. But anyways, I like I said, I'm on board. It just, obviously it's the weaker of the two. So you got to go with what you go with, though. Don't you? But think about it. You could be drawing a card and discarding the same card that you just drew for 2 red every turn. Just look at the value.
But why would I do that? Why would I do that?
Because it's amazing.
Then why don't you run Tibble in all of your red decks?
Because I only have 1 copy, but I need to get more.
They're cheap as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, should I make Tybalt your Goreclaw?
Yeah. Well,
I buy like 15 copies and just hide them in
all my decks. That would be amazing. We are still in the hunt for BigTuck's card to die on a hill this year, so we'll see how that goes.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the green section. Now we're going to head over to the hops in BigTuck. Why don't you start us off? What's your first hop card?
So this is a card that I own, and it's one of the ones that, again, I know why it's in CEDH, but it just is still surprising to me. And you could say I'm shocked because they have the same CMC. I think it's really great that you have Chain of Vapor in here. So Chain of Vapor,
so good.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? Chain of Vapor is 1 blue. It's an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that permanent's controller may sacrifice a land. If the player does, he or she may copy the spell and may choose a new target for the copy. So normally I have seen this get copied over and over and over again. Sometimes I've seen it up to 3 times, but that's usually like in a normal table where people have been like cultivating rampant growth. They have mana dorks, whatever, where like a land isn't as important. But correct me if I'm wrong, because CEDH is so much faster, I'm guessing sacrificing even 1 land could pretty much lose you the game, right?
I wouldn't say so. The whole reason that you run such a low land base in CEDH is because you have so many mana rocks and mana dorks and ways to generate. So it's still the same as EDH. Just look at CEDH, where a CEDH game, their turns 3, 4, and 5 are more like a kitchen table's turns 6, 7, 8.
Okay, that makes sense.
They should have just the same amount of resources, but I have seen it to where people do okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and sack a land, and now I'm going to do this. I have seen that happen a few times, but that is few and far between.
Right. Yeah, and this is also nuts to me that this uncommon from Onslaught is $6, which is wild. Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show you how powerful this is in. It really goes to show you how powerful it is in CEDH, but moreover, how much a 1 mana difference makes. So, anyways, Chain of Vapor, got to talk about it.
All right. Well, I want to talk about a counter spell that, once again, I thought it was trash. And then once I started playing the format more and understanding it, I don't know why it's $7, but Flusterstorm will just wreck house.
Yeah, it's really good.
In CEDH. I don't think this would ever work, though, in Kitchen Table, correct? I don't think this is good in Kitchen Table.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's worth the money.
Okay.
Because there's better ones out there. But
Flusterstorm, single blue, instant. It's a rare from, my printing is Modern Horizons, my favorite set ever. And counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays a colorless, but it also has Storm, which is really the important part. So when you cast a spell, copy it for each spell on the stack cast before this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So a lot of times in CEDH, you'll have these plays of, I'm going to play Expropriate. Well, I'm going to Force of Will, exiling a card from my hand and losing a life. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to Pact of Negation that. Okay, well, I'm going to do this. And it could be like, okay, well, fuck you. I'm going to Flusterstorm. I get this many copies of Flusterstorm, and then you could point the copies at whatever you want.
Yeah, right.
Which is really, really cool.
And again, like I think the reason why it's expensive, it has only been printed a handful of times because this used to be like $20. When it got printed, because it was originally printed in Commander 2011, which is wild. But then I think, again, going back to the reason why it's so good in CEDH, it also is the 1-drop, right? It's a 1-drop counterspell and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And I think this does. I think if you had one and you're playing like a super heavy counter stack, it's okay in the Kitchen Table format because sometimes people might like Demonic Tutor, go get their big win piece and then go from there, right? And then they might not have the mana and it's only one. But for me, there's so many other options that are like $1 that are better than this, that are non-conditional. And I think, again, in CEDH, it's also like, the instants and sorceries in CEDH are especially what's going to win you the game most of the time, right? Whether it's like whether it's like copying, expropriating a gazillion times, or some other huge spell. Yeah. So that also makes it really better synergized for this format than just your normal Kitchen Table as well.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. What's your second one, Senor?
I have another counterspell. This is another one that I think it's really interesting you have it in here. I think it's very cute, but I think it's also like a back to Flusterstorm. So I think Whirlwind Denial, which isn't there a card called Whirlwind of Denial?
Maybe.
Hold on here.
Are they just getting lazy now?
Oh, sorry, it's Whirlwind of Thought, and then there's Whirlwind Denial. Yeah, but anyways, they are lazy. So anyways, this is a uncommon from Thrasios, which is bonkers, right? 2 colors in the blue. For each spell and ability your opponent controls, counter it unless its controller pays 4. And I love the flavor text too, which is no, and no. So this is a really interesting card because I think a lot of people say like, well, if they're generating infinite mana, then they can always pay the 4. And it's like, kind of not, though. This actually can stop infinite mana generation. It kind of does it's kind of another copy of Flusterstorm, right? Where it's going to copy if someone's doing a bunch of things on the stack. And even if they have infinite mana, so let's say you're playing the... what's the other the mirror match of this deck, and they're copying or they're going through Thrasios ability and they're not thinking about it and letting it resolve, so they just put, okay, I'm gonna go 999 times. At some point they have to stop doing that, right? And then you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go in a Whirlwind and denial that. And then if they're not thinking correct, or if they like lose their mana somehow or whatever, then that could be like a way to stop it. But even then, if you're holding back mana and someone's going super fast, they're probably not even gonna have the 4 available to counter, just if you're gonna counter a big extra turn spell, right?
Yeah, 4's a lot for someone just to be able to be like, oh, I just have 4 left over, unless they have the infinite mana.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't think there's a way, like, the only way you could stop the infinite mana is actually on the first activation, I believe.
Yeah. Because
they could just do it in response, and if they've done that enough, then they'll have the infinite mana to be able to pay it.
Right.
It's you have to. I don't know what that line would be. I guess like in the Grim Monolith Power Artifact one, tap Grim Monolith for 3. I'm going to activate its ability for 2 to untap it. With that on the stack, Whirlwind Denial. And then they're just dead in the water.
Yeah, right. Because it won't be able to untap. Okay.
The more reason I use it is in those counterspell battles like I did with Murph over my birthday. This is something to where it's like, okay, 3 mana. We have like 10 things on the stack. You have a crap ton of mana, though, because you get all these mana rocks and rigmaroles. Whirlwind Denial, counter everything, and we're good. I like anything that counters abilities, like Disallow.
Yeah.
So many things in EDH, whether it's kitchen table or competitive, has activated abilities that could be so backbreaking.
Right.
And having a counter spell that could deal with that, even though it's 3, I think is actually pretty worth it.
Yeah, and even on a lot of times if you're playing fast on EDH, if you're playing normal, you'll just be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and while that's happening, I'm also going to do this thing. This one actually makes you really kind of have to think and be like, okay, I'm actually going to let that resolve before you do anything else, right? And like think a little through the stack. So again, for a 31 set foil uncommon, I think it's punching way above its weight.
Sweet. Well, I'm actually talking about another counter spell that came out this year as well. That's 17 cents as a foil. Unsubstantiate.
Oh yeah, this card's incredible.
This is a colorless blue instant uncommon from M21. Nicely done, Jace. Oh no, I got to do it in her voice.
Oh wait, was she Cockney? No. We just came up with a voice for somebody that was hysterical. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I don't know. I was going to try to go like sexy Angelina Jolie. I feel like Angelina Jolie would be like Liliana, like nicely done, Jace. You always were good at disappearing acts. I almost said disappointing acts, and then that sounds like uber sexual.
Whoops.
Anyway, that's my Liliana, everyone. I'm here all night.
Yeah,
so,
thank you all for coming.
It says return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. The reason I run this in the deck is it is only 2.
Yeah.
And there are things in, we talked about it last week with the Goad with Dovin's Veto. Some things say the spell can't be countered. Mm-hmm. This gets around counter spells that can't be countered, or spells that can't be countered. I will never probably use it for the creature to its owner's hand unless I'm just extremely desperate and I'm about to die. Hey, they're going to hit me for 1, and then hit me for 1, that'll put me at 3, and then I have a mana crypt I got to flip for. Maybe I do it on that case because I know I'm going to lose. But I think it's great to have that backup.
It's got to be a creature though. Because the spell, you can only do that on the
spell.
You can only do the spell on the stack.
Correct. Or bounce a creature that's on the board.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, I just think it's great, especially when you have some of those players like I've kind of alluded to where it's like, okay, I have infinite colorless mana. I have just enough colors. Let me go ahead and win the game now. Substantiate. You still got infinite colorless mana, but you got nothing to do with it, and pass the turn, and you'll probably die.
Yes,
so
totally. And if they are playing commanders that are a little bit more like Kaikar, for example, where he really needs his commander to kind of get it going or that sort of thing, you always have the option to bounce it back to his hand and try to disrupt it. But again, like the fact that it's the remand with an additional thing on top of it, just I think does a lot of work.
Yep, for sure. All right, man. What's your last hops card?
So this is another cool one
because we've cheated. We both are on the same one.
Are we on this one or no?
Yes. Yeah. Because remember, I take all the notes so we can send it over to Tyler to do the video editing.
Oh yeah. So
I know what you're doing.
So are we matching on this one too? I don't remember.
Yes, we're matched on this.
Okay, well, anyways, I guess here we go. No need for a bit here. 3, 2, 1. Wishclaw Talisman.
Wishclaw Talisman.
That's
a colorless black. It's an artifact. It's a rare from the crappiest set ever.
Yeah, the worst one. We were way off on that. Wish Claw Talisman enters the battlefield with 3 Wish Claws on it. 1 colorless, tap, remove a Wish counter from Wish Claw Talisman, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. An opponent gains control of Wish Claw Talisman. Activate this ability only during your turn. So I think this, I just think it's a really cool card. Like, I think it's very well designed. And the way I'm thinking about it, correct me if I'm wrong, is this is like, there's one of 2 things that you're doing with this, right? One is it's a 3 mana tutor to go win the game, right? That you can just do whenever. And then
that's all it is.
Yeah, but I think that you also you made mention before that you have played this for 2 and you just wait, right? Because you don't need to activate it and you wait till you have the right mana or that sort of thing, right? Is that kind of like one of the strats that you use with it too to kind of bait out a removal or something?
Yeah, well, because I don't know if anyone's actually going to use a targeted removal on this, because once again, you should be using removal and counter spells not on the tutor, but the thing that they tutor.
Yes, exactly.
And just risk it that it probably doesn't have hexproof, shroud, indestructible, can't be countered, because that's just so few and far between.
Right.
But I do like it from the aspect of, think about this, boys and girls. Demonic tutor, colorless black. It's a staple. Vampiric tutor, single black, staple.
Yep.
Diabolic tutor, meh. And those cards, though, you have to spend directly out of your hand. Mm-hmm. And you may pull them early in the game and you don't know what you need.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you're looking at your hand, you don't even have one piece of your combo ready. So it's like, well, am I just going to waste it to go get a combo? Yep. Do I do it for this? Do I do it for that? You just aren't sure. So usually you just hold on to it and I'll tutor at the right moment. Mm-hmm. With Wishclaw Talisman, I could pay the 2 if I had nothing else to do that turn, plop it down and just let it sit.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's almost kind of like the there's that, it's Dragonheim, or it's that land that you can like pay colorless, tap it, and you can basically put like storage mana counters on it.
Yeah,
and then when you're ready to cast it,
there's a button.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
I basically look at it like that. This is basically a tutor that you just kind of like put in the bank. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna put some mana in. It's here. When I'm ready to spend a colorless to go tutor what I need, I'll go ahead and do that.
Right.
Plus, when you do it from that perspective, they have to have a disallow or a whirlwind denial to counter the tutor.
Exactly.
Because it's not actually casting a tutor spell. So you can go get your game winner at that point. And yes, even though you have to give it to someone else, and I get it, CEDH people are like, don't do that. It's like, but if I'm doing it, I'm gonna win the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that I like about too that I just realized, because this is the 2nd or 3rd time we've talked about this card, depending on the recording that you're listening to, is that I thought the stipulation was just sorcery speed, but it's not. It's at any point during your turn. So you can, so you don't have to do it just in your main phases. Like if you go to combat or something and you have to use it, you can always use it on your turn, which I think which makes it even better. So,
or from the CEDH perspective, I've cast a big spell to hopefully win the game. Counter spell, we're in this counter battle, they're the last one to do it, and it's like, I really need to. Okay, let's pay the colorless, let's go get my Force of Will that I can cast for free. And blast them.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's one of the more creative picks in the whole list.
I did that just for you.
Babe.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up the hop profile. Then we're going to head over to the yeast, and this is going to be pretty boring because the yeast section ain't that big. We got 9, but I think that's an upgrade from Kaikar, which was 5 or 6.
Yeah, something like that.
I can't remember.
He at least had the dignity to put in a spice.
I don't have any spice. All right. Well, this first one you and I aligned on. It's an awesome artifact from Zendikar Rising.
Oh, God.
Does a lot.
I hate so you're reading this one. Littleform Engine. It's 4 colors for legendary artifact that's mythic. Ha!
Pay 2, tap, copy target, activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. So that's a great way to copy Vial Smasher triggers.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
3 colorless, tap, copy target instant and sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Basically, pay 3, maybe get another copy of Flusterstorm. Well, actually, I don't think Flusterstorm would work. So, but usually you use that for the extra turn spell. So there you go, 3 mana.
Or you go get, you go Grim Tutor twice, right? And go get your 2 combo pieces you need, right?
Sure. And then 4 colorless tap, copy target permanent spell you control. This one, I don't think I'll ever use that often. I mean, I guess there's something to be said about having, I don't know, multiple Mystic Remoras if it's that late in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I guess multiple Lotus Petals. I mean, I guess Hole Breacher would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like for every card you don't get to draw, I get 2 treasures. But I don't know. I don't think the 4 will ever get used, but I do believe the 2 and the 3 will get used a lot.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, 8's a lot. Because I feel like doing, 6 for the first ability on a turn where you don't have much else going on is pretty good. Just to play this and also do the ability. But like, yeah, getting up to 4 seems to be a bit. I mean, how many are all the permanents you have in here are either legendary or mana rocks, right?
Yeah.
So I think with the form engine is fine. I just kind of hate this card because to me it's this baby Paradox engine where it's like you can make you generally would make the argument that you would put Paradox engine in a lot of your decks, even if it isn't part of like the infinite combo, especially if they have a lot of mana rocks, just because you get a lot of value out of it.
Sure, if you have a lot of mana rocks and stuff.
So I kind of feel like this one is it's generically good in a lot of decks, and that's why I don't particularly care for it, just because I feel like you can just kind of put it in something. You're like, all right, well, I don't know. I need an extra slot, so I'm just putting Lithoform engine in it, and someday it's going to work, You know what's funny is you calling it Baby Paradox Engine. I bet you when the rules committee saw this card get previewed, they're like, thank God we banned Paradox Engine. Could you imagine this with Paradox Engine? That would be gross. It's horrible. So, I think it's an interesting card. I'd be interested to find. I'm interested in hearing about a deck that like it's the cornerstone of, right, like a build around, kind of like how Paradox Engine was in your Yidris deck, right? Like that deck really sung with that. So I'd be interested to hear if this has that same potential, which I don't think it does, but who knows?
I think this actually could. I mean, if it's not, my deck's already tuned enough, so I don't think I can do it. But this would actually be very interesting in my Empress Galena deck.
Yeah, right. Oh, especially with being able to
like. Yeah, with the activated ability, that'd be really cool. I have a lot to counter stuff to protect my things, so the copy instant sorcery if I needed to, that'd be cool. But imagine this, man. I play like control magic 4, make another control magic on the stack. I'm taking 2 things now. That seems pretty decent.
I think you should take it out of this and put it into that.
Oh, absolutely not. I'll just have to get another copy.
Oh, fair enough. It's not...
Remember, 2021, we're on the single train.
Yes.
We're not getting these packs no more.
Indeed. Love it.
All right. Tuck, what's your second one?
All right, so this one's pretty basic. I just want to tell it because I learned recently why this card is so good. Nexus of Fate, wahoo. Congratulations, we did it. 5 colorless, blue for a rare. It's a mythic. It's an instant. Take an extra turn after this one. Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal it, and put it into its owner's library instead. Sarkhan wandered into a tomb and back in time. So I knew that this was a big spell, mostly because it monster mashes, right? Extra turn's always good. What I didn't realize, and I finally, I think I own a copy of this. I'm like, whatever, we got the Buy a Box promo, who cares? And I have it in the deck, but the trick of it is the instant speed. That's where it's freaking bonkers. Because you can do it, take an extra turn at any time. I mean, it's effectively, in a normal deck, it's like a ramp spell. It just does everything that you want at instant speed, right? For one more than like the old-fashioned tutors.
Yeah, and actually, funny thing, do you remember how you got this card?
Yeah, we went and picked it up together.
Well, remember, that was a set that neither one of us was going to do the buy a box. That was one that you and I were like, M19 doesn't look that great. Whatever. And then we saw Nexus of Fate. It was the buy a box. We're like, and I think the card was pre-ordering for like $20, $25. Right. And that's when we're like, oh, well, we have to get a box. Look at the value of this card. And yeah, like I don't even know what it's worth now, but I don't think it's worth 20 or 25.
22 is what I'm seeing right now. So
there we go.
But I do remember that. I don't remember. And the funny part is I always kind of remember, I sort of always remember a little bit of some set. I couldn't tell you a single card besides this one from 2019. I have no idea.
I think there was an Ajani Planeswalker in that set, maybe?
Is that right? I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, so Nexus of Fate is really good. It's the cornerstone of tons of decks, both CEDH and otherwise, and I hate it. So there you have it.
And I will say this is also another card that is a competitive card, but I'm okay if someone runs it in their kitchen table deck only because of the... if Nexus of Fate would go into the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into the owner's library. I think it's always good to have some way to protect yourself against a mill.
To monster mash itself, sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I do think it, it's just like Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. I think Kozilek can see play in a casual, even a power 4 or 5 deck, because of the fact that he does protect your graveyard and you can monster mash. Because there is more and more mill every single day.
Yeah.
It's a nationwide epidemic. Mill's hitting the streets.
Everyone hide.
All right. So, of course, I had to do it. But I would have put this in the spice. But Lithoform Engine, it pairs very well with, as well as my Grim Monolith. Power Artifact, baby. Love this card.
Gotta go take a nap.
2 blue, enchant artifact. Basically, guys, you throw it on, you enchant one of your artifacts, and its activated abilities are reduced by 2, but it can't be reduced less than 1. So the real reason it was in here, and it would have been a spice, is because you do that on Grim Monolith or Basalt Monolith, you win the game.
Right.
You get infinite mana. You basically throw every single land from your deck onto the battlefield with Thrasios Tritan Hero, and then as long as you have enough to take an extra turn, you've won the game. So that's basically why it initially was in here. But now that I have Lithoform Engine in, how about I pay 1 to copy an activated or triggered ability, or pay 1 to copy an instant or sorcery, or pay 2 to copy a permanent? I mean, the copy of the permanent, we talked about it's not really that relevant in here, but holy balls, paying 1 to copy an instant or sorcery? Like, I'm going to Nexus of Fate, and by the way, I'm going to pay 1 and do it again? That's gross. That's nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't have anything to say about this that I haven't said before, so I will choose not to speak the devil's name so that he will not come.
I am super thankful, though, that I got hard on this card and I have like 4 or 5 copies of it. But I bought them all for around $60 to $80.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, $271 is what I'm showing the average on TCG Player.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too. Good God.
That's a hell of a deal. And by the way, Collective Squee McGee has a power artifact he's trying to unload.
I thought he offloaded all of them.
No, because remember he was trying to pawn it off onto the Goad last week.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
All right. God. Tuck, what's your last yeast?
So there wasn't a whole lot to work with here, obviously, as we talked about. So I just wanted to bring up this is my favorite. I think this is probably my favorite extra turn spells. I played a lot in normal kitchen table games in my EDH deck. So Temporal Trespass does a ton of value. 8 colorless, triple blue for sorcery. It's a mythic. Few truly live in the moment. Ooh, that's good. I like that. It's got Delve. Each card you exile from your graveyard while casting the spell, you can pay for 1 less, and then 1 colorless left, and then you get to take an extra turn after this one, then exile it. So for me, I just think that in this, obviously it's an extra turn spell, right? You need to jam in as many as you can, especially the ones that are.
And I'm hitting someone for 11.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I run it in. Eureka, obviously, because it's a monster in there. It's 33 points of damage from 1 card on the board. And then I also run it in my Vial Smasher and Thrasios just because it's a big one. But again, it's modal. I think, especially the more colors you're playing, the more card, and this has been my experience at least, especially in blues, the more cards you're ramping with, the more fetch lands or evolving wilds, that sort of stuff. The more draw spells you have. So I think this, even though it's triple blue, is better the more colors that you have in the deck.
Yeah, I agree. I will never shy away from delving out 8 cards because, I mean, outside of Renin 6, I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any recursion?
Yeah, I don't think I do. So literally, it means nothing to me. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't want it.
Yeah, I like the card. I like it, and especially if it's just one of those fringe scenarios where it's like, okay, if I can get an extra turn, I've won the game, or I've put myself so far ahead that they're going to have to try to gang up on me, but I don't have enough to cast my Nexus of Fate in hand, but I need to get a supplemental piece down as well. So it's like, okay, exile 8 from the yard, 3 blue, get my supplemental piece down, next extra turn, hopefully probably win the game.
Right.
So great card, and being able to dome someone for 11, even though it gets exiled, it's fine.
Yeah, the exile part does suck, but again, if you get your one use out of it and that wins you the game, then it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, because they say in CEDH, as long as your life total is 1 and you're the last one there, you did all right. Well, my last card I plopped down during the first stream I did with Commander 99, when they were all like, ooh, we don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's all play our good decks. And I was like, okay. I pull out this, and it's like Earl the Miststalker. I think someone was doing the mono white Indestructible Angel, or not Indestructible Angel, where she gives all your flyers indestructible.
Oh, yeah.
And then I pull out Turns and Burns, and I get Swarm Intelligence down. Ding, ding, ding. Like turn 5 or 6. And just loop that into Expropriate and all the other gross things. So, Swarm Intelligence, 6 colorless blue, enchantment. The Locust God's children were numberless, relentlessly eating away every trace of the city's protection.
Oh, cool.
George Orwell, 1984.
Okay.
Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I mean, it is what it is. I will tell you this. I think a lot of CEDH players would consider this a spice because of its mana cost.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
It's just a lot. It's a lot. But to me, it's a game winner because we just talked about how good Lithoform Engine is. If I could pay 1 or 3 to copy an instant or sorcery spell, what if I don't have to pay anything to do it?
Right.
That's really good. And I think this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I cast the spell. My opponents either counter it because they're scared of it, but hey, that's one less counter spell that they have. Or they let it resolve. Now all of my counter protection gets doubled.
Okay.
So it's like, what hill do you want to die on? Do you want to give me the route? Because you only have so few counter spells, you'd rather try to counter spell whatever else I'm trying to cast, or do you just want to prevent this from even being on the field? So it's kind of like the tutor scenario where you should never counter the tutor, but you just don't know what they're going to get and if it's going to make it to where you can't interact with them. So what path do you pick? So, I mean, I will say this, Swarm Intelligence might be on the cutting block if I get to something. If something gets printed like in Modern Horizons 2, that's just, damn, that's really good and it's cheaper, I'd probably cut it. But right now, I think it's cute enough that I can keep it in.
It kind of gives your deck a little flavor to it as well, right? So it's, you probably only see this every other time you play the deck or something. So at most, so it's kind of one of those things where you can always back up on it, right? If they've killed your commanders, if you've tried to get your Thrasios out and kind of like get him going and they just keep killing it and you just need some other way to get value, this kind of fills in, especially if you can get it out fast. So it was interesting to see it in here, but I know you've won with it before, so it's like, okay, like I guess it's in here for a reason. So that's 7's a lot.
All right, what is your last one?
I'm done.
Oh, wait, that was the last one.
We're done.
Hey, look at that.
We're back.
We're moving on to the spice package. Blowing right past that because there ain't no spice here. Now we're going to head to the bottle capping. And as a reminder, it's going to be BigTuck's and I's cuts and adds to the deck. They're going to be under 5, under 50, and no budget. Just can't talk about mana-only lands, which Steam Vince is the only one missing from this deck. So I'll start this off. I'm going to cut a card that I believe is a CEDH staple. I just think I could do better.
Okay.
And it just doesn't do a lot for me, even though I got the mystery booster card for it. I think I'm going to cut Baleful Strix.
Oh, yeah.
Or Secret Layers card for it. So let's talk about it. Dimir. So it's blue-black, artifact creature bird. It's a 1/1. Flying Death Touch. When Baleful Strix enters the battlefield, draw a card. Woof, this is a lot of text.
This is your own doing for getting the fancy version.
Some superstitious persons believe that owls, being creatures of the night, are agents of evil. But those who make such claims see only the reflection of their own guilty consciences. Ooh, that's dark.
That is dark.
So it's in here because it's supposed to be 2-drop. It replaces itself. It gives me a flying death toucher, but really it's a 2-drop that draws me a card.
Yeah.
And I get some body out of it. I just think when I've died with this deck, it's not because someone's hitting me. So I don't think the blocker is actually that needed. And we're now talking blue black, we're doing more of the, you got to have the 2 colors, and I'm in a 4-color deck. So I don't know. I just think for what it does, I'm not getting enough out of it.
I think the biggest point why I agree with you is like it's usually good because it replaces itself and can block, right? But again, to your point, It doesn't matter, right? It's not going to be like normal EDH where someone's like, oh, well, I have my Vial Smasher that can attack. Who's available? Oh, you have a Baleful Strix. I'm going to go for 2 over here. You know what I mean? So it makes sense.
I do see streams though where people do that. They'll just swing in for 1 with Vial Smasher because someone's open.
Yeah, sure.
So people do that from time to time. But I guess my point is my deck. My deck, my back, my unky, and my crack.
I think a point is CEDH is.
It's just more. The only thing I'm worried about is Najeela.
Yes,
Najeela would suck. But you know what's going to happen? They're going to swing out at someone else to get enough warriors to where once they come my way, my 1/1 death touch isn't going to be like. It's not going to matter. Yeah. So I'm going to add a card that may shock you.
Is it shock?
It's not. And I don't see it played in CEDH, really, ever. Runic Armasaur.
Oh, okay.
Colorless green creature dinosaur. Hey, M19.
Yeah, there you go.
The set that no one remembers anything from.
The one. Okay, so there was one that jumped out. That's the set that Goreclaw came out in.
Oh God.
The card. It's the set that has a card that you have the most copies of.
Oh God, I actually may have more Goreclaws than Soul Rings. Think about that.
Oh, good.
Creature dinosaur M19. It's a 2/5. The Sun Emperor's most sacred sites are protected by more than prayers. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. It is activate, so that could be a thing. But here's what I like about it. A few different things. One, I don't think anyone's going to counterspell this.
Probably not.
Because it doesn't tax them like a Mystic Remora does.
Yep.
2, it's a May effect. So I can draw cards as often as I want. And then if I'm getting dangerously low and it's like, I think I'm going to stop, I could choose to stop. Some of the ones that just force you to draw, that really sucks. And then lastly, mana dorks exist. There are lands like Strip Mine and things like that. It would be nice to get that incremental draw. And I think with a Runic Armasaur, I'm paying 1 more mana than the Baleful Strix. It's a 2/5, so I still say it's a decent blocker. And I'm probably going to draw more than 1 card.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, and again, this Thrasios is pretty rampant in CEDH, right? So people, even if they don't have the infinite combo, generally use that to kind of filter through their deck. So this is both a good card on its own, but it's also like this weird sideboard card against your mirror matchup, right? Which if you can get it out early enough, might give you the card advantage that you need to get like to the things that you need before the other mirror player does.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I like it. It's cute.
All right.
It's cute.
What is you? It is cute. See, CDH doesn't have to be the same deck over and over and over.
Just most of the time.
Just sometimes.
So I'm going to cut. The card I'm cutting is kind of like a generic one. So I'm going to cut Beacon of Tomorrows. It's a recycled card. But in reality, you could cut any of the other cards. I think, for example, for what I'm trying to get into this, you could cut Time Stretch, you could cut Temporal Trespass, you could even potentially cut Temporal Manipulation. Any of these higher CMC spells. Because really, you need Nexus of Fate to work if you're going through your loop. Like, that's a big one you need. These other ones are kind of cute. So, Beacon of Tomorrows is 6.
Beacon of Tomorrows works as well, because it does get shuffled. It would go on top. I would draw the card for turn, cast it for 8, goes back on top.
Okay, so we can leave. Fine, we can leave that in, and we'll just cut Temporal Mastery. There you go. You don't run.
No, I hate you. You're cutting a card that I like. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
We're no longer friends. We are just co-hosts.
Even better. So I know that this deck. I know CEDH isn't supposed to be hyper interactive. But I think that you could still put in one card that would keep your mana curve lower, any other card you want to cut, and also kind of shut down two different kinds of decks. So I think you should put in Ashiok Dream Renderer. So it's a color.
Ooh, I do love Ashioks.
Yes, it's color and two Dimir hybrids, so you can pay blue or a black for them. It's a legendary Planeswalker Ashiok. Comes in with 5 loyalty. It's an uncommon and is about $1.50 right now. So the first thing is spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search the library. So this is kind of a slot that's also being fed in by what's that one? The opposition agent. There you go. But having a backup of that really can shut people down and let you use Wishclaw Talisman with Abandon. So that's a treat. At least to go get your own and then pass to someone else. So it kind of shuts down tutors, which I think is important. And then also -1, target player mills 4 cards, then exile each opponent's graveyard. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that there's things that are like Dredge, Get Rog Monster, those sort of things where the graveyard really does matter, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, losing one of these top end cards is going to cut your CMC down, potentially a fair amount, and then you're slotting in something that could potentially stop another opponent from winning the game with their combos and their Rube Goldberg machines.
Yeah, no, I like it. I wish it wasn't, because I do agree with you. I probably have too much redundancy with the extra turns in here. And I probably need to get more of that interaction, because actually I will say CEDH is very hyper interactive with your opponents. Maybe not necessarily what they're doing, but what they're trying to do to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, that being able to have a redundant stop tutor is great. Yeah. And then being able to just exile everyone's graveyards, like, that's really good.
I think it kind of fits on curve too. So, I mean, if you want to keep the turn spells in, you could probably have the same argument for cutting Baleful Strix for this one, right? It's one more and stops two things that you're trying to get done. So, anyways, I know that Narset is the big uncommonly played, which you already have in here, I believe. Yep, you do. So I thought you might want to bring along her step sibling, because Ashiok, I believe, is neither a man nor a lady. So there you have it.
That would be correct.
We be woke up here.
All right. We be woke. All right, we're moving on to under 50. I'm going to cut Keen Sense.
Okay.
I pretty much already talked about it. If it was an artifact equipment, I think I would keep it in. That way I could continually re-equip it. But I don't have Graveyard Recursion, and so what good does it do for me to have a slot taken up in a deck, spend a mana to not get a whole lot of value?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And so what I'm going to add, because I was able to get my hands on 3 boxes of it, but I'm leaving one unopened, that Commander Cookout Spellbook Recipe Book Green, we're going to put in Sylvan Library.
Sure.
I don't have one in here, and now I have extra copies laying around. So Sylvan Library, colorless green enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life and put the card on top of your library. $30? Is that an all-time low?
That's probably. I mean, I think I saw it almost 8 years ago for 20, but that was like way before people started playing as much Commander. So yeah, I think 30 is about as low as it's going to get.
So I look at this in a few different ways. Yes, I died a mana crypt quite a bit, so why not just add another way to kill myself?
I didn't even think about that.
But I actually more look at this as I'm going to use it because my commander can kind of do some filtering for me.
Yes.
So let's go ahead. I'm going to look at the 3. And if I have Thrasios out, I'm probably just going to keep one of the cards and make sure there's a land for the next one, and then pay her ability, because I would rather pay 4 colorless to get that land onto the battlefield than pay 4 life to put it into my hand. I don't think 10% of my life total is worth it.
Right.
But it does put me up for those later games where it's like I have the thing to win. I just need that extra card. I can now dig, and if I need to pay the life, I'm about to win the game, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say. And I think to your point earlier, even though you have lost to this, as long as you have 1 life left, it really doesn't matter, right? Because people aren't going to be swinging in with 5/5s and that sort of stuff. They're either going to Comet Storm everyone for 1,000 or win on their own, right? Yep. So I think if you need 2 mana, so 2 green mana and 8 life to draw 2 cards your next turn is a fair investment whenever you need it. And like you said, you may not even need it at all, right? You may be like, okay, the top. I only need this 1 card out of the top 3, and here we go.
Well, and I think that's the misconception with Sylvan Libraries. A lot of people think when you run it, oh, I'm just drawing 3 cards, paying 8 life. I'm doing it all the time. You don't need to do that. Like I've played it in games where I never pay life. I just look at the top 3. I pick the one I want. It's like a brainstorm. Put them back. And then I'll be able to see an extra card next time, or maybe I need to do a fetch land crack to shuffle, get something new.
Totally agree.
You don't have to be a degenerate and draw 3
every single time.
I would almost say it's kind of funny. I almost use Sylvan Library like a Mirri's Guile more than Sylvan Library.
The real trick is
I like the option for when I need to.
Yeah.
Oh God. All right. BigTuck, what are you doing for under $50?
Okay, so this is the most boring one here, and it still blew my mind that you still have this gap. So I'm cutting Elves of Deep Shadow, which is a perfectly fine card. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an Elf Druid, a 1/1 that when you tap it, you add black to your mana pool. It deals the damage to you. Cast out to the Conclave generations ago, these elves found a home in the corrupted districts of the Golgari. Fine, totally good card, right? However, the card that you don't have, is a Birds of Paradise and a 4-color CEDH deck? What the hell is going on here?
I don't know.
And I know you have copies of them piling all over the place. So
not piles, but I think I have a copy sitting in the binder.
I think you got I think you got the secret lair drop that had it if you had the Baleful Strix, right? So here you go. Now you can take out one and put in the other. So Birds of Paradise is a 1 green creature. It's a flying. It's a 0/1. You tap it, add 1 mana any color. And the new, just pretty normal. You if you have a run in 6, you immediately pick this off. A single Vivid Feather fetches a royal price. But who, having seen one of these magnificent creations of nature, would settle for a feather? Oh, that is also kind of dark. It's kind of sad, actually. So, anyways, pretty straightforward here. I don't need to flap my gums any more than I need to about it.
I should probably have it in the deck.
I guess the only other argument is no. Never mind. Wait. Never mind. I was like, you could cut like Finhorn Elves or something for that, but you need the black more than you need the blue. Wait, no, you need the green. You need the green more than you need the black. I'm done.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm so hungry.
All right. So we're on to No Budget. This is a card that it's a little expensive. It's not crazy though. Okay. But I think I'm going to cut Dualcaster Mage.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm very torn about cutting it, but let's just kind of talk through it. So Dualcaster Mage, colorless, red, creature, human, wizard, flash. When Dualcaster Mage enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It has been my experience that disasters like to strike in pairs.
As he pours 2 jugs of lava on the ground.
Yeah. And you can actually see in the art the 2 like lava things are going down like a river, and then maybe causing the explosion in the top right. Is that what's going on?
I don't know. Because you can see them kind of join up together.
Yeah. Maybe.
We're gonna have to call Matt Stewart Selward to ask him.
Yes, and he is wearing his glasses. So I don't know. I needed to pick a card because I didn't want to do like I did when we originally recorded and said I don't have a cut.
Oh, good on you.
I think here's the thing. I actually think this card's very good because it can copy anyone's instant and sorcery spell. So, you're going to take an extra turn and go infinite. Well, how about I go extra turn before you go extra turn and let me see if I can do something. But I don't know. The 2 red, even though I have a perfect pie of color access, like it was mentioned, I need way more blue than I need red, black, or green combined almost. So I'm probably going to be using my fetches to go get blue sources, still duals, but I'm going to be using it for probably blue and green, blue and black. I really only need red, if you think about it, for my commander, Vial Smasher. That's really it. Heck, I even used to have Gamble in the deck and cut that. So
Gamble rules.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how you feel about it. This is a card that I think has massive payoff. It's just,
I
don't know if I'm ever going to have the mana to cast it.
I'm there. I also think that this card is I agree with you. It's very good, right? Especially because so I think this card's really good. This card shines in decks where creatures matter, right? So for example, I would put this card over Fork in my Perforos deck because it's the same ability for one more, it deals 2 damage. So for me, I agree with you though that it's a good ability, but there's probably better costed abilities for you in these colors for this deck. Right,
like Fork.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if you want to, I think Fork would be just as good. Or if you don't want to pay that, you can get Reverberate for a fourth of the price. So, but anyways, I'm with you on Dual Cast. So what are you gonna cut it for though?
So I'm going to cut it for another counter spell, but it's one that is very popular. It's going for like $30 to $40, so I'm probably not going to pick one up anytime soon. Pact of Negation.
Oh, sure.
Nothing sexy.
Yeah.
Just 0 cost, counter target spell. Those who expect betrayal or every turn are seldom disappointed. And it does have the writer text of, at the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 3 colorless, blue. If you don't, you lose the game. It's played all the time. Yeah, and the whole way this deck works is I just need to get to my rigmarole so that way I can combo and win. And my combo is an extra turn. It's not dependent on other stuff like some decks. So you know what? We're in a counter spell battle. I am literally tapped out. They do the last thing they can. You know what? Pact of Negation. I'll be able to at least untap with Nexus of Fate on top of the library, still be able to pay the mana, still be able to cast Nexus of Fate and still win the game. Yeah. So I think having this backup protection for free is better than 3 mana copy something that could be amazing or it could be a Kodama's
And
Reach.
To your point, this is another card that kind of like is a trump card of like counterspell battles, right? Where it's you can keep digging, you can keep digging, you can keep digging. And a lot of times I feel that people wouldn't counter this because they know that this is going to set you back potentially, right? So it's always kind of like the last one that comes out at the end of the stack. The fact it's 0 that you can go 2 for it and immediately cast it, right? Without having to lose anything else. You know, like Force of Will is really good, right? And so is the Fierce Guardianship, but they're both conditional to pay for free. This one's not. You just need to be able to, know that you can literally pay the 5 next turn and worry about it later, right? I think it's a good addition. Probably needs to be in here if you're running blue and CEDH, which is also why it's $30.
Absolutely. Just F us sideways. All right, BigTuck, take us home. How are you gonna make me spend money that I don't want to spend?
So this one, it's not as bad. I thought about doing better for myself and making you go get a Mox Diamond, but I didn't trust myself. So I know this is one of your pet cards, but I think this is something that you probably have started. I think we've talked about taking this out of more decks than it's in. I think you should bin Jason Mind Sculptor. So
it sucks. I have so many foil copies of them, and I'm just cutting it from decks left and right.
It's really good, but I just don't think it does what this deck needs, right? So 2 colorless, 2 blue for a mythic. It's a mythic Planeswalker Jace. Comes in with 3 loyalty, and it does have 4 great abilities, right? +2 is look at the top card of target player's library. You may put that card on the bottom of that player's library. 0 is Brainstorm, draw 3, put 2 from your hand back on top. -1 is return target creature to its owner's hands. -12 is exile cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library. So all very good abilities. I don't think any of them push your deck further than another substitute, right?
Well, I think for me, obviously you play it for the free brainstorm.
Yes, obviously, yeah.
But I think in CEDH with this deck, not CEDH, I will just say this deck, I have all of 10 creatures in the deck, and I've talked about cutting one. So I'm going to have 9 creatures in the deck. I'm not going to have ways to protect Jace, and he's not as impactful as your Ashiok pick, because Ashiok, when it's out, literally can directly impact the board. -1, mill 4, everyone exile graveyards, and you can't tutor until you
kill. The turn it comes down, right?
Yeah.
And it costs 1 less.
And so that's... Well, so what I was going to get at, though, is that it immediately impacts. So even if someone swings in and kills it next turn, I basically paid 3 to exile all graveyards, mill you 4, and no one could tutor until it was killed. That's very impactful. Right. Jace is going to hit and just be brainstorm. Yeah. And so for me to get the value from Jace, he has to last at least 4 to 5 turns. I don't think he's going to last that long. That's just me.
I also would be surprised a lot of times if the game lasts that long, right? After he comes down.
No, that's a misconception. Sure. CEDH doesn't regularly end in turn 3 or 4. It's just decks have the potential to do that. If you get like your god hands. But yeah, Jace, I think has actually been, this is going to sound sacrilegious because of the price that he is. I think he's been downgraded from a competitive planeswalker that competitive decks want to more kitchen table.
Yeah, probably.
And it's more flavor. Yeah. I mean, it's gross that a flavor card is $60.
It's still good. It's still good, like in Super Friends decks and anything where the top of the deck matters.
Sure.
But to your point, it's not the powerhouse that it probably was 10 years ago or however long ago. So this one is. I was kind of surprised not to see it in here, but I think this is going to help you smooth out your games a lot. So I actually am going to put in Training Grounds. So Training Grounds is 1 blue. It's an enchantment. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost up to 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana cost to less than 1 mana. Under the Master's eyes, skills are honed sharper and spells cut deeper. So pretty much, not without beating the drum here. I think this deck, like we talked about, you do kind of need your commanders out to do their thing. And I think if you can go first turn Training Grounds, second turn your commander, I'm guessing you can do that somewhat consistently. Then now, not only does Thrasios' ability cost 2 less, it also was something you can do more often, right? If you're flooded, and this kind of lets you. I think this kind of lets you take the target off yourself a little bit, right? So. If you're just doing that, you're just kind of like filtering, drawing cards, just kind of playing normal Magic, right? Playing your stuff. While someone else may be going like super fast, super hard, super fast, super hard. They eat up a bunch of counters, they eat up a bunch of removal, and then that'll let you do your thing a turn cycle or 3 later than what you wanted to do, but you get to win off it.
So I think the thing with Training Grounds, I like it. I would definitely be open to cutting it or adding it in place of Jace. I think the thing, though, is that if we go by the brews and builds categories, I think Training Grounds would be a spice.
Probably, yeah.
Because it's basically, Training Grounds is power artifact, but for creatures. And I only have 1 creature in the deck that has an activated ability, and that's Thrasios. Right. Just kind of like how I had mentioned power artifact would have been a spice if I didn't have Lithoform Engine. So I like it. I'm going to have to figure out... Is it being in the 98 worth the card slot for only one thing it can interact with versus something else that, maybe I just cut the Jace for the Narset, or not the Narset, the Ashiok.
I think it kind of changes.
I like it. I like it. I might have to do some gold fishing with it to see how consistently I can get it and how impactful it can be. And heck, maybe it's one of those things that if I add Training Grounds in, I re-look at the 10 creatures I have in the deck and figure out, are there replacements that maybe have activated abilities that are better?
That's what I was kind of thinking too. It's like, I think if you just slot it in, if you slot it in now, it's good just because your commander's so good, right? And that's so strong. But I think if you kind of like with Will, how he put in those 2 cards to kind of switch his deck around a little bit, right? I think if you look into that and say, okay, I'm kind of tired of what it's doing, or I want to spice it up a little bit, there's probably some other targets that are still playable and good that this would help a lot with.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I agree that we're at the end of the episode. And as promised, here's some details about our giveaway from our sponsor, Level 1. We're giving away that Kaldheim bundle in the month of January. And to enter, it's super simple. Just promote the content that we put out, whether it's a squeezed crack pack, a Brews and Builds, an Action 4 News, or even us guesting on other channels. We will announce the winner on MTG Action 4 News February 2nd and social media soon after. And yes, these giveaways will happen every month. Just keep promoting and supporting Level 1 so they know that we are worth a damn. Woo. But we would love a 5-star review, some positive feedback on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Hope you guys are enjoying the videos that T-Coats put together. They are fantastic. Really, if you would like to reach out to the cast to find out more ways you can enter into the monthly contest and just engage with us in general, here's how you could do that. You can reach me at Mr. Commodore number 5 on Twitter, all spelled out except for the 5. BigTuck, where can they reach you?
I am still on the Twitterverse at BigTuck tweeting on Twitter.
And you can reach our main account at CMD Tower on Twitter as well. Basically, all you got to do is type in Commandeer Mana Drain Deflecting SWAT Tower.com. Squee McGee, if people want to find out how to get a hold of your Manolith commentary, how would they do that? And you can just enter in whatever the hell you want, because we can't hear you. Watch actually doesn't add anything in. He just leaves all this banter.
I will. What if he just, it's just like, okay, I'm going to join it, I'm going to sync it, and then that's it. This is unedited.
He can handle all of your audio needs and does have a full studio if you are in the Kansas City metro area. Just remember, mask required, flip-flops in the snow optional.
If he was here, he'd love it too.
If you want to support the show as well as hook up our sponsor with the orders you're already placing, like I've talked about, level1gameshop.com. When you place an order in the order notes, just type in CMD Tower so they know that you came from the collective. They do sell board games, all the dice that you need. They even sell some CMD Tower swag. Seriously, guys, go hook them up. That team is awesome. If you would actually like to put some money in our pocket so we can upgrade our equipment and also start working on our next tiered giveaways for our patron community, head over to patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different pledge levels from just $1 a month all the way up to $25 a month. Each tier does give you additional entries into the monthly giveaways as well. If you guys can't help us out from a monthly perspective, but you would like to pick up some of our swag, or maybe you're already a patron and you need more swag, just head over to cmdtower.com/merch. Please buy the things because, in all honesty, other than it just clearing out room in my place area, which I really, really want, it does kind of help us recoup some of the money that we've invested into it, so that way we can work on the next thing and then the next thing, and you guys are hopefully getting like new merchandising things from the CMD Tower team at least twice a year. Yeah. But if you can't actually help us out from a financial perspective, just share the content that we put out. We really do appreciate it. And the more people you can infect to be a part of the collective, the closer we are to world domination.
And one day we will do it.
And of course, thank you, T-Coats. Appreciate the videos. And thank you, Pink Royal. We appreciate the music you guys put out. If you would like to get a hold of T-Coats for your own video projects, at T-Coats on Twitter, go hit up Tyler. He is awesome. So, Tuck, 2 episodes down. We only got 1 more to go. CEDH month. We were talking Thrasios Smashes extra turns. I'm just kidding. It's turns and burns. How do you feel? You're 2 episodes in. Are you ready to gouge out your eyeballs?
It's fine. Like I said on the previous episode, there are still some like interesting things to talk about, right? Like the format. It's not like talking about a format that's block or anything. So it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. So this wasn't as bad as I thought. It's just really hard. The hardest part for me is like the cuts and ads, because a lot of times they're so limited. Like so let's say that a quarter of the decks, just to pull it out of my butt, a quarter of the deck's lands that you can't choose, right? A quarter of the deck or half of the deck are cards that you need just as like kind of staples and stuff to like find the other quarter of the deck or the other third of the deck or whatever, sure, or eighth. So you only have, to me, it's like you only have an eighth of the deck that you can even cut, and even that is narrowing it down. But it's not, like I said, it's not near as bad as I thought it was going to be. It is fun to talk about something a little different. So yeah, so I'm excited to see what the next guest is going to bring on.
Well, I'm glad you didn't just hate every minute of it. I know that you've been looking for like these other cards that are kind of interesting and different. Right. So I'm glad that I was able to do that. I'm glad that Will was able to do that. And it'll be fun kind of rounding it out with our special guests next week as they actually run a CEDH channel. So they'll actually know what they're talking about. Well, boys and girls, I think we're out of here.
Peace. Enjoy your Saturdays. Go get wet.